What was the place like? Like all white, dreamy, like heavenly?
I have snippets of recollection. I lived a normal life after coming back. In my mind, I was there for like 4 or 5 days, but when I came back, only 19 minutes had passed. I learned a lot of things, and I don't think I remembered a lot of it except unconsciously. I became a different person. I was no longer the same person. You know, there's a story, if I can tell you the story about Alexander the Great. Before he was on his dying bed, this young man at age 23 conquered the world. He had a request of his generals, his second in command. He said to him, when I die, please make sure, promise me you will do 3 things. I said, what is that, sir? I want my physicians, my doctors, to carry my coffin. I want them to carry no one else, just my doctors to carry my coffin. He had an army of doctors around him. And second thing, I want you to throw gold and silver and all the coins and all the wealth and all the rubies in my path on the way to the grave. And third thing I want you to do is I want my arms to be outside the coffin, laying down, hanging out of the coffin. They all thought it was pretty weird for asking all these things. And so finally, after all arrangements were made, the general sat with him and said, Alexander, Your Majesty, why do you want, first of all, your physicians to carry you? He said, because I want to remind the world that no doctor in the world can save you from death. If you're going to die, you're going to die. And so no doctor can save you and make you immortal. And the path with gold and silver and all of these things, on your way to the grave, you cannot take any of that with you. You will walk on it, you will see it, but none of it will go with you. And the arms out of the coffin is to show the world that I came into the world empty-handed and I go empty-handed. So people forget this. They go around accumulating wealth to the extent of hurting other people. The greed takes over. And before you know it, wealth and the accumulation of wealth and everything else becomes primary in their life. And it's not.
You were pronounced dead for
Yes.
like 19 minutes.
About 19 minutes, yes.
How did the doctor explain you coming back?
He called it basically, it happens once in a while, spontaneous. In fact, when I came back, I'm supposed to be a vegetable, not able to, because brain function, ceases
for
after
19
4
minutes,
minutes
yeah.
and your brain starved of oxygen. This is what happens. So he has no way of saying, maybe he said, he talked about the plasticity of the brain, where the brain sometimes regenerates itself spontaneously, the nerves, and so grows more tissues and more connections and all of that. So they didn't spend too much time explaining that. He had an even worse time trying to explain how I understood and how I heard every conversation that went on, how the nurse argued with him when he said, let's try one more time. You know that invisible hand I was talking about? That was like almost a similar hand that was pushing him forward and changing his thinking and saying, try again. Because I was sitting there for like 5 or 10 minutes or so, and he said, try again. And so he felt like trying again. And so he did. Boom, boom, banged on the chest, da-da-da-da-da, and I came back. And
What was it like? You were sitting there watching the doctor trying to resuscitate your heart,
I saw
and
that.
then what?
But I wasn't
you jumped
there.
into your body?
But I wasn't there. I mean, I don't know how to explain this. I was there, but I was there, but I was there, and I was there. I was everywhere.
Yeah, you were everywhere.
I don't know how to explain this. I sound like I've just been drinking or something, but I was everywhere. And I was also there, but somewhere else. So I recognize that perhaps the way in which we understand the quantum universe is such that an atom can be in 2 places at one time. So is it possible then with our shift of consciousness that we are in all places at all times? I think the closest was the Buddha that came to this. When he achieved enlightenment, he knew everything about everyone, about all things. He became omniscient. He understood and became omnipresent, past, present, future. Everything was understood. In that moment, we all become that, and we understand this. In this body, we don't. But outside of this consciousness, take all of the limitations off, take all of your conscious, paradigms that you've built in your head, take them all off, and we have this endlessness to us. And it's quite amazing.
So
Most people forget this.
You came back to your body,
Yeah, got
You
sucked
woke
in
up.
actually.
sucked in,
Sucked in just like a vacuum cleaner. Zoop. Next thing I
like
know,
in
I'm
a
there.
movie, something like that. Just
Just
go back into your
just,
body.
Yeah. It's not like laying down and say, okay, let's get all the parts aligned. No,
No,
it
just
wasn't like that.
boom, go in.
More like a like
And then
that.
you woke up. The doctor had to cut your left arm.
Yes, just about 2 inches above the elbow.
But in the book, you said you look at your arm, but you didn't
Oh
feel
no,
that
this was
sad.
later. That was in the hospital. That was in the operating theater. Now, after a while, I was groggy and things like this, and I passed out. They brought me into the ward to recover, and there was a
Right.
tube sticking out there, and some other tube sticking out here, and there was nobody in the room at that time. And then I suddenly woke up. My eyes were open. I looked up, and wow, the pain is gone. That's the first thing I recognized. There is no more pain in my left side. And then I looked down. Oh my God! I just almost went into a coma again one more time. My left arm was no longer there. It was like,
You were shocked.
yeah. And I wanted to commit suicide at that point, but I was going to throw myself out the window. But I was on the ground floor, so it wouldn't have been effective. So I decided not to do that. But as the days passed by, I started to get a clear sense of who I was, and I maintained and got this sense of humor. I don't know where it came from. I started to see things not so seriously. So from a young boy who thought he was a bodybuilder, who spent his time looking good so that all the girls could notice you and all of this, to suddenly a person who lost his arm and now looked different from everybody else. So I knew and began to understand certain principles, even though they were learned by force, that you are not your body. You are much more than this. That you are not your mind and your thoughts and your emotions. You are much more than that. Those are all passing through your head like clouds through your head. And that you are much more. And what the much more is, that's what you have to discover over time.
So from that experience,
Yes.
you discovered the meta secret?